get really bold when he's with his parents. But if they're not close by, maybe not so courageous. And I think the closer we are to God, the bolder we can become. But we have to be careful that there is no arrogance that's attached to that boldness. It's only because of Christ that any one of us can come to our God. Boldness is a confidence in God that he will keep his word. Boldness is not an arrogance. It's when you have been with Jesus, you're confident in him. You're not confident in yourself. And that's not the only thing that we can learn. There are 4 lessons we can learn. I'll zoom through them. The church that had 2020 vision had courage under fire. First, we need to be courageous because of Christ, yet not arrogant. The second lesson is we can let others make their own choices about God. Sometimes we feel like we got to push people. Verse 19 says, Peter and John answered and said to them, whether it is right in the sight of God to listen to you more than to God, you will have to judge. And so what he was saying to them was, judge for yourself. We need to be careful we don't presume to make other people's decision about Jesus. It's not your choice for someone else to choose Jesus. It's their choice. Everyone has the right to choose, even if that means they choose the wrong path. Our God is a gentleman. He knocks on the door of our hearts. He does not force his way in. He is not rude, nor does he kick down the door to someone's heart. He just loves them and knocks. Some Christians arrogantly act as if they're not, if we don't follow what they believe, they arrogantly act as if we're not saved. And it's unfortunate and hard to be around people who are that narrow-minded. They think that we should all like the same songs, that we should all pray the same prayers, that we should all have the same conversion experience. For them, nothing is negotiable. And people like this tend to think they're the only ones who are going to be in heaven. There's jokes about that. I love those jokes about someone in heaven who discovers someone else is there and they're shocked. Well, maybe some will be shocked when they see us. We have the same Jesus, but he takes us just as we are and starts a transformation in us, according to Romans chapter 12. The church, as God intended, had courage under fire. How can we do this? We can be courageous yet not arrogant. We can let others make their own choices about God. And thirdly, we can remain committed to the truth. Even if we're hated for it, we believe the truth is still the truth. Verse 20 says, for we cannot help but speak of the things which we have seen and heard. And so opposition doesn't change what is true. They had been with Jesus, and he was the non-negotiable in their life. It wasn't some teaching, some abstract teaching, some maybe true or important teaching that there is a resurrection from the dead. But the truth of the matter is, we need to be committed to the truth even if no one believes us. We should not be surprised at their spiritual opposition. John 15:18 says, if the people of this world hate you, just remember they hated me first. In 1 Peter 4:12 and 13, Peter says, dear friends, don't be surprised or shocked that you're going through testing. That is like walking through fire. Be glad for the chance to suffer as Christ suffered. It will prepare you for even greater happiness when he makes his glorious return. In the ancient Greek religion, the god Asclepius was sought for healing. People would go to a temple to receive healing. But at that time, there was no cultural push to take your own efforts to bring healing to someone else. So yes, bring them to the temple, they would say, where they can receive help. And the truth of the matter is, church leaders followed a biblical admonition to visit the sick, to take their anything they could take that would help these people deal with the struggles they were dealing with. So think about congregations and communities set up, even formal practices for care. They became common among Christians. And so, because of Christ, there was a new normal. Now people wanted to go help people. And that's the way it should be. It's still around today. God wants us to love other people. He wants to do it through you. And so when it talks about they had taken note that they had been with Jesus, we have to ask that question about ourselves. The church as God intended had courage under fire. How can we do this? Well, first of all, we can be courageous yet not arrogant. Secondly, we can let others make their own choices about God. Thirdly, we can remain committed to the truth even if nobody agrees with us. Just don't be arrogant about it. And lesson 4, we can pray for God to give us wisdom along with our boldness. In Acts 4:23, it says, "And being let go, they went to their own companions and reported all that the chief priests and the elders had said to them." They went back to their Christian friends. They gained courage during difficult times. They were encouraged by one another. I can't think of anything that would be a better parallel for us than to think about the people that you normally connect with, that you want to connect with, but you can't because of this virus stuff. Well, there's still a telephone. There are still ways to make connections. And all of this time when we have been maybe scorning and irritated and grumbling about social media, it's a tool. And it's a way that we can let somebody we want to connect with but can't connect with, to let them know that they're loved, and to find out if there is a need that God would have us respond to. James says, if anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask of God. So we need to ask God, Lord, what do you want me to do? How can I help? How can I minister to someone who has a need? If the apostles and the early Christians found out that it was necessary to pray for boldness, I think we probably should too. We need to pray for boldness and we need to pray for wisdom. God uses spiritual opposition. At least that's what it says in Romans 8, verses 28 and 29. He says, "And we know God works all things together for good for those who love God and those who are called according to his purpose." God can use anything, even the coronavirus, for his glory and honor. Even the stuff the enemy means for evil, God can use for good. It's true. Matthew 5:10, Jesus says, "Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." So if you get criticized for trying to help someone, that's just part of it. 2 Timothy 3:12 says, "Anyone who belongs to Christ and wants to live right will have trouble from others." That's a great reminder. It's going to happen. If you want to help, you will probably get criticized. Anything you do is going to be wrong in somebody's eyes. Did you know that some of the marked growth of the church in the early centuries came to be attributed to a care and compassion that Christians showed for the sick? Did you know that there were increased conversion rates during the 3 of the biggest plagues? The Antonine plague of the 2nd century, the Cyprian plague of the 3rd century, the Justinian plague of the 6th century. Christians demonstrated their love for God and their biblical values by the way they cared for sick people. They didn't run away. They responded when there were needs. They did what they could do. This love offered a very attractive witness for Christ, and the church grew. "By this will all men know that you are my disciples." Do you remember what Jesus said? "By this will all men know that you are my disciples, by your love for one another." Show them that you're Christians by your love. That's what we need to do. We need to be wise, not careless. We need to listen to God and respond to needs in a way that would honor him. We need to think, look, see, not just have hands and feet that would honor God, but a heart that cares when we see the needs. Let's do that together. We're going to sing a song that's just help us focus. Nearer, my God, to thee. Hymn 553. That's what we want to do, and that's what we want help others do. Get nearer to God. Let's sing it together. Just one verse.